Heinrich Bauer was born in the small town of Waldkirch in the Black Forest in Baden-Württemberg, a place of long, dim shadows and old stories. He carried those ancient dark shadows with him throughout his youth. As a teenager, he would disappear for days into the forested hills of Schwarzwald, then emerge with glazed eyes, seemingly elated with his experience. His parents felt a sense of foreboding but tried to ignore their worries. After receiving his commercial pilot's license, Bauer emigrated to the US and was based in Houston. At 48, he had the posture of a man carved from authority itself, straight-backed, chin slightly raised. His gaze measured the world and found everything, and everyone, wanting. He flew a wide-body Airbus A380 on international routes, the kind of aircraft that made passengers feel small and safe at the same time. To Kapitan Bauer, the plane was not a machine. With all its automation, it was an extension of his will. He had learned early that confidence, or rather pride, was the difference between command and chaos. He loved chaos, and he adored command. His instructors had praised his decisiveness. His supervisors had overlooked his quick temper. Later, his crews learned to tread lightly around him. Bauer believed that hesitation killed more pilots than storms ever had. Yielding, in his mind, was another word for weakness. He'd learned that special rule when he wandered in the dimly lit forests outside Waldkirch. He commanded Flight 771 out of Toronto that was bound for Houston. The weather briefings were ugly. A massive storm system had bloomed like a bruise over Kentucky and Tennessee. It was red and purple magenta on the radar. Dispatch suggested taking on extra fuel. Bauer waved it off. He said, "We'll go around it. We don't need padding." He was clipped and final. In fact, Bauer relished the thought of a wild storm. He could show his dominance and his power amid chaos. Half an hour out of Houston, the first officer, Mark Taylor, an Australian, saw the fuel numbers creeping lower than he liked. Headwinds had strengthened. Deviations had added many miles. Bauer noticed Taylor's attention on the fuel page of the ECAM system display and was ready with his answer before Taylor spoke. "Captain, we might consider." Before Taylor finished his sentence, Bauer snapped. "It is fine. We are okay." Taylor pursed his lips. "The readings are amber." Bauer dismissed his concerns. "We'll fly my plan." The storm rose to meet them like a wall. Even at their cruising altitude of 40,000 feet, lightning flickered inside the clouds, a nervous twitch under the skin of the sky. The turbulence radar identified problem areas ahead, and the alarm sounded throughout the cabin. Even before the passengers had time to return to their seats and buckle their belts, the massive plane bucked. Coffee sloshed out of cups. A child cried somewhere in the cabin. A woman shrieked when the plane suddenly sank. As Bauer eased the plane between the pockets of turbulence, he was smiling. Taylor was increasingly disturbed as the fuel page numbers shifted from amber to red. He told the captain, but was ignored. When the plane was 135 nautical miles out of Houston, air traffic control informed the crew that an intense storm was positioned over the airport. They would be required to fly a holding pattern to the northeast. Bauer simply replied, "Houston, Airbus 771, holding pattern northeast. Wilco." Then, Taylor squeezed the trigger on his side stick and interrupted. "Minimal fuel," Bauer exploded. "I'll do as instructed." Air traffic immediately responded. "This is Houston, Airbus 771. Did you say minimal fuel?" Bauer replied. "Houston, Airbus 771. Negative." Taylor tried to gain the captain's attention again, softer this time. "Sir, all numbers on the fuel page are red. We should divert and land anywhere as soon as we receive permission." It was then that the storm swallowed them. The sky darkened in a way Taylor had never seen. Not night dark, but bruised, unnatural. Purple clouds churned like something alive. The automated instruments began to misbehave. The altimeter flickered, then died. Even the standby magnetic compass on the glare shield spun lazily, then stopped altogether. Suddenly, Bauer flew the jet higher, engines screaming. The plane soon reached 25,000 feet. A crackle came through the speakers. Not static, something like a whisper under the noise. Then it broke through. Terrain, terrain, terrain. First Officer Taylor's voice was shaking. The system, something's wrong. Bauer barked. Ignore it. I have control. An automatic alarm sounded like a gong, accompanied by the words, pull up, pull up. Taylor stared at the display. He yelled, It says 50 meters, Bauer snarled. Impossible. The captain's hands tightened on the side stick controller and pushed the jet higher. He held the red button down with his thumb so that his first officer could not interfere. Lightning flashed, close enough to paint the cockpit white. In that frozen instant, Bauer saw something reflected in the plane's windscreen. Not clouds, but a vast shape, all angles and shadow. It was a face looking in. A strange voice threaded through the avionics, through the radio, through Bauer's own skull. It said, Do not yield. Bauer swallowed and muttered, I will not yield. The voice purred. Then make it certain. Fly for me forever. Bauer whispered, I will. Taylor turned to his left. Captain, who are you talking to? Bauer hit the dump switch, which manually opened the cabin's outflow valve. Then, he smashed his fist hard into the side of the first officer's head. As Taylor slumped to the right, Bauer fixed his own oxygen mask and stared through the windscreen, breathing hard. The cabin pressure quickly dropped until it equaled the atmosphere outside the plane. All the passengers became drowsy, then fell asleep, then sagged into unconsciousness. The oxygen masks that dropped from the ceiling swung uselessly above them. After a few minutes, none of the passengers were alive. Then, the fuel gauges hit empty. Alarms sounded. Suddenly, the clouds parted, and Houston appeared below, a thin constellation of city lights. But Bauer had no intention of landing. Soon, Houston's air traffic control range of 135 nautical miles fell behind. The fuel page of the ECAM system display stayed relentlessly at red, empty, mocking reality. Bauer felt the truth settle, as though his gut had turned to ice. He had won, and he had lost. Time broke. Just like it had for Bauer on one extraordinary day in the Schwarzwald, he felt both elated and empty. Turning the plane to the northwest, he crossed over New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada. Then, he turned to the northeast, passing over Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. On and on, Bauer flew the ghost plane without fuel or purpose. He gripped the controls of the plane as it silently slanted over mountain ranges, cities, lakes, and, eventually, oceans and continents. Air traffic controllers tracked its path in disbelief as 771, with a long-expired transponder, glided through their airspace, never responding, never landing. Pilots who saw it felt a chill dread in their chests. Something bad always followed. An accident, a crash, a storm that took lives. The jet glowed faintly at night, a spectral luminescent craft cutting through the lower stratosphere. Eternal motion, no progress, no rest. Captain Heinrich Bauer stared through the windscreen forever, his left hand locked on the side stick controller, ruler of a small demonic vessel that would never touch Mother Earth again.